Hello, we welcome you to another session of our R language primer. Today's class is on factors. Factors take the values true or false, or they are basically like, let's say, the gender of a person, which could be male or female. That's the kind of data we use in factors. So one of the definitions we could use for factors is to categorize the data. They can be either strings or numbers. We could assign, say, male is 1, female is 2, or we could say male is M, female is F, and so on. Now they have a limited set of unique values like we have here in the example, and they are very useful when we have to convert numerical data to a kind of category. That is why we say categorize the data. That's factors. The factor creates an object called a factor and takes a vector as the input. So we are creating some examples here where our categories are summer, winter, spring. Now what we have done is we have got the three different things but repeated. We have got summer, winter, summer, spring, winter, summer, summer again, winter, spring. And then we print the vector and then we say ask whether is it a factor data. Then we convert the factor data into a factor itself. Actually it's not yet a factor data, it is still a vector. When we apply the factor function, the vector data becomes a factor. So when we ask the question whether it is a factor, is dot factor, we will see a different answer. As we see in the slide here, the first output gave us all the string values in the vector, and when we asked is it a factor, you see the answer false. But the moment we change it into a factor object, and then we ask the same question whether it is a factor, you get the answer true. So that's the difference here, and you can see the same example in the top window of the RStudio, where the output is at the bottom. The first time it is still a vector, so it says it's not a factor, it's false. Second time it has become a factor, so when we ask the question is it a factor, it says true. Now factors can be converted into data frame columns. The text column would be treated as a categorical data or a categorized data, which we are calling as factors. So the example here is we have got a heights and we have got the weights, and we got the gender, which has the various genders as male and female repeated as many times as the number of observations. Now we want to create this whole thing into a data frame. A data frame is like a DBMS table. It's got a relational database table. We have our rows, we have our columns, and we have the records, the tuples. So when we look at the data frame object, we have asked it to contain the height, the weight, and the gender, where we know the gender is text strings. And we print the data. And then we check whether the gender column is a factor or not. So we have taken the data frame object data1. The $sign indicates that we are interested in one column from the data frame, which is the column gender, and then we display it. We also print the column to see the levels of the data. So we are trying to, first time we are printing whether it's a factor or not. Second time we see what are all the various levels in the factor object. So when you see the output, the first one shows you the data frame, where we have outputs are 1, 2, 3, 4. We have the height, weight, and gender for each of them. Then we get the word true because it's when converted is factor. And then the levels are male and female. We just have two levels in this example. The same code is put into the block at the window on the RStudio's upper portion. And the output you can see in the RStudio, the window at the bottom. And you could see how the data looks like when it's in a data frame. It's more like records in a relational database. Then we are able to pick out the category of the data and say whether it is how many levels of them we have. Like suppose we had more levels like summer, winter, spring, etc. Those would appear. We have only 2 levels in this example. Now we can change the order in which the levels are displayed, not in the data frame, but when we ask for the levels to be displayed. So you change the levels by specifying the levels equal, and then you specify which you want first, which you want second, and so on. So in this example, we have created the factors. We call it as factor data 1. Print the factor data 1. Then you change the order of the levels, where you say that the level should be summer first, winter next, spring last. And then we print out the data. So when you look at it, you get all the data like a summer, winter, whatever. And then we get the levels as spring, summer and winter. But when we specify the levels command in the second output, we get the same summer, winter, summer, spring, but the levels have been specified as summer, winter and spring. In the previous slide, you could see that in the second last line, the levels have been specified as summer, winter and spring. Now if you see the program which has been typed into the RStudio top window, you can see the program. And in the RStudio bottom window, you could see the output where we have got the levels, default levels, and then the levels as per the specification given in the code. We have various levels to be generated. The function used is called GL, where n is the integer specifying the number of levels, k is the integer specifying the number of replications, the times it's repeated, and labels are the vector of labels for the resulting factor levels. So to take an example to illustrate what we are saying, we have got the data as 3, 4, labels is Spain, Japan, India, and then we print data 1. Now when we print data 1, our levels appear as they are, like Spain 4 times, then Japan 4 times, India 4 times, because he said we need to have 3 of them repeated 4 times each. And the levels are Spain, Japan and India. The same example we see in the RStudio, where at the top we have specified the 3, 4 and the labels. And output we have got as Spain repeated 4 times, Japan repeated 4 times and India repeated 4 times. When we go back to our syntax, you could see the number of levels and the number of times the level has to be repeated, n and k, which is equivalent to our 3 and 4 in the example. We thank you for listening to our session today. We would like to have your feedback and appreciate your questions. You can mail them to the email address given in the slide. We thank you for viewing our video, and we wish you all the best, and trust yourself. You know more than you think you do. Thank you.